All right, here we are, BLBS Podcast with ruckus maker TaRael Kee, who's an assistant principal at Collinsville High School, currently serving as the president of Illinois School Counselors Association. I feel like I should salute you on that. He recently became a site-based trainer for the American School Counselor Association. And this is a brief bio. We'll have a much longer one on the website. But listen to these credentials too. Named the Collinsville School District E-Educator of the Year, that was 2017. Recognized by the College Board 2018. Received the Lindenwood Alumni Spotlight 2019. And was awarded the Illinois School Counselor of the Year 2021. What's up, TaRael? Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. What's going on?
All right. Well, the first question where I want to start off is you've successfully been able to hire more educators of color than ever at your school. And I'd love to just unpack and hear what your system for success is.
Well, it's really a collaborative effort. We have an amazing HR director, but we also have a committee. It's called our Chaotic Diversity and Equity Committee. And that was one of the things that we thought was really, really important. We wanted to make sure that kids had representation at our school. Our school's roughly 25% Hispanic, maybe about 15 to 17% Black. We have Asian students. We have, of course, white students and everything, right? But we wanted to make sure that we could provide representation so that kids could see themselves, as leaders within the school community. So it's just been something that we've been working on piece by piece, and we're making progress.
That's great. And I love this idea that it's a collaborative. And here's the thing, though. I know that you've had to have some very honest conversations with your hiring committee, right? So, it's collaborating now. Cool. But how'd you get there? What did those honest conversations look like and sound like?
So it kind of happened pre-COVID, right? So it was the January before COVID hit. And we all kind of just sat down and we were just honest with each other, and I told, some of our district leaders how I felt, for a couple of years, I was the only Black male staff member in the entire district, and we're a large district. And it was something that we all felt was something that we should really work towards, hiring, looking at our hiring practices and making them more inclusive. Another thing that we're doing now, just kind of further on down the road, to continue the trend, is we also have a diversity and equity scholarship for teachers as part of our Grow Your Own program, right? So we want our students, especially, any student really, but our students of color especially, we want them to come back to Collinsville. So we have a scholarship that pays out each year. So you get $1,000 each year in college, basically. So your freshman year, you get $1,000, sophomore year, junior, senior, right? And if it takes you 5 years, that's fine. And then when you come back, you'll get a bonus. And what we found is there's so many people that are interested in contributing to the scholarship. So we have teachers that are having money deducted from their paychecks to fund it. We also have corporations in the community that are donating and helping us fund it. I think we're over $75,000 now for this scholarship, and we're working gradually to make sure that it's fully funded so that we can continue to provide $10,000 to students if they come back to Collinsville as teachers.
That was such an innovative approach of bringing talent back to your community. I just thought that was awesome. So thanks for unpacking that a little bit. I was very curious about the funding. So I'm hearing, man, there's some really generous teachers saying, hey, actually take a little bit off of my paycheck to contribute to this. And I hear some local businesses, corporations are helping out as well. I'm sorry if I missed this, but so $1,000 per year sign-in bonus if they come back and teach where you're at in Collinsville. Has the program been around long enough, to see a student start as a freshman and now head back as a teacher?
No, this is the very first year. So we have our application approved and everything. Now we're thinking about right now, if we should retroactively get someone since we're receiving so much funding, but that's still a topic of discussion right now. But we're going to award the first one, and then this year, and we should see you know, like, and we're going to support their student with professional development along the way. So we have
Right.
PD at the school. We're going to invite them back. We're going to try to make sure that they get an interview, like at least. So we're going to do everything that we can to support their student while they're in college.
Very cool. Thank you, TaRael, for talking about that a little bit. Hitting back on the topic of hiring more educators of color at your school, you know, in my view, a lot of schools make excuses, right? And probably at the top of the list of those excuses is, oh, we can't find anybody. There's not enough qualified educators of color, which to me is baloney, is the nice way of saying it. But how would you respond to those excuses?
So there's this company, like, so first off, there are definitely excuses, like people are around. So one of the things that our HR director did this year is he went to a flip job fair. Like, so it's Black Male Educators St. Louis, right? They throw like this flip job fair. It's another one coming up in February this year. Just want to plug them. And what happens at this job fair is you have like some of the best Black and brown educators in the St. Louis area, right? So we're St. Louis Metro and Collinsville. And they interview the schools. And then have the schools tell them why they should come there. So if there's a shortage, then that means that some of these educators need to leverage that position. So like the schools come to and our school went to it, and a lot of schools did, and kind of went in and tried to recruit to see if they can get some of the top educators in the area. We also believe in like going to like universities, like we're doing like job fairs and all kinds of other things. I think we went up to like Mizzou and all kinds of stuff. So you could sit back and say, oh, nobody wants to come to you, or you could get proactive and actually go out and seek out the best talented, like the most talented minority educators in the area if you want to. So, I mean, it's just one, you know, it's just how you look at it, I guess.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So you said a flip job fair. People are interviewing the school districts who are making a case of why they should come work at their districts. Have you been a part of one of those job fairs yourself?
Yeah, I have. So, you know, I just recently switched positions. I was a school counselor last year, and I'm an administrator now at our high school. But so I decided to try it out to see what it was like, and it was really interesting. Because, you know, I'm sitting there in my room at first, and I'm thinking no one's gonna come. I'm like, man, you know, I'm pretty cool. You guys should stop by. But it was like within like 3 minutes or so, they came in. And so it was, I probably had, I don't know, like 6 or 7 schools in there, like, and I'm interviewing them. One school got uncomfortable, like, so they kind of left because, you know, like it was weird, like being in there competing for one educator, right?
So
and
take us to that moment, though. Sorry to cut you off, but what made them? You don't have to tell us the school district, obviously, probably not appropriate. But
I'm not gonna do
what
that.
was it that you were asking that made them uncomfortable? That's interesting.
It wasn't necessarily what I was asking them. It was just the fact that they were there first, and I was talking to them, and then someone else came in, so they felt uncomfortable talking about like their demographics. Actually, that's what we were on. We were talking about their demographic situation in their school district, and I guess they felt uncomfortable, you know, like when another district came in, so they kind of moved on.
I see. Interesting. Okay. Anything else in terms of shedding light on the type of questions that applicants might be asking at a flip job fair, or how? Let me back that up. What could districts communicate to attract highly qualified, the best talent, right? And educators of color?
So what could they be asking to attract? All right, so let's see, what could they be asking? Asking like the applicant, or asking themselves?
Well, I'm curious about, in terms of a district who probably has some sort of initiative that looks nice on a website, right? Or they have an awareness, hey, we want to improve diversity among our staff, but realizing there's work to be done and then actually doing the work are two different things. And so I'm wondering what those signals are that schools and districts put out to highly talented educators of color that says this is a place where you can thrive.
So I think like part of it is just actually doing it. Like for one, like just to be totally honest, like our district for a while, we had a reputation of not hiring minorities. Like that's what, like whenever I would be around, like, you know, like around other Black educators, they would just ask me like, how did you get on there? Because nobody gets hired and stuff like that, right? Well, part of it is just actually doing it. So like we started hiring people, and then, you know, like the perception is reality. So like, you know, they like the perceived thing is that you could not get hired here because no one was getting hired here. So we started hiring people, and we've hired some really incredible educators. I mean, like just for example, from another district, we hired Dr. Robinson. Like she's incredible, and like she's doing all these things for like IPA and all this stuff. So she's a visible person, you know, like this within the district. So it's very difficult to deny that we hire minorities. And then, I mean, just a bunch of other people afterwards that know other people. And like the word of mouth starts going around. And that's one of the most powerful things. Like when you're talking about hiring and attracting people, like you could have like the best flyer and best billboard in the world, but if the word of mouth says that minorities feel uncomfortable at your school, nobody's gonna want to go there. You know what I mean? So I think our word of mouth is great. And that's because like we promote each other. We nominate each other for awards, obviously. And, you know, I mean, like we're just there for each other in a way that is just authentic and unique. And I think that's why people want to come here now.
Absolutely. Word of mouth is the best kind of marketing, you know, messaging that you could have. It's worth gold for sure. You have a pretty cool story about the newest band director too. Speaking of word of mouth and tapping into the community. So what's that story?
About the newest band director? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So he was a former student here. He's the first Hispanic band director in our school history. But yeah, he was a former student here. He did a student teaching. I believe he did it here. And then, yeah, he was ultimately hired, and he's doing an incredible job right now. And he connects with the kids from the community. And I think, you know, not only like just knowing the language, but just knowing about the community and things like that. It just opens up so many doors, like when you're actually from here and actually from that community. So he's doing great.
Right. Was that somebody that you all worked aggressively to reach out to, or was he reaching out to you to get the job? Do you remember?
He kind of reached out to us. I mean, because he was actually, I think he did a student teaching here. Right. So it just made sense, you know, like when the opportunity presented itself. I'm not sure if our former band director is now an assistant principal. I'm not sure if he actually personally reached out to him and tapped him, but he was also in on the interview. And so he knows about the band director's work ethic, how they are. Like he's known him for so many years since he was in high school, supported him through college and stuff like that. So
cool. All right. So we're going to pause here just for a second to get in a message from our sponsors. And when we come back, I'd love to talk a little bit about running. We have that in common. And also, we'd like to highlight your podcast, The Key to Success. So today's BLBS podcast is sponsored by Harvard. Learn how to successfully navigate change, shape your school's success, and lead your teams with Harvard's certificate in school management and leadership. Get world-class Harvard faculty research specifically adapted for pre-K through 12 schools, self-paced online PD that fits your schedule. And you can apply today at betterleadersbetterschools.com/Harvard. We're also sponsored by TeachFX. Research shows that the more students speak in class, the more they learn and the better they perform on standardized tests. TeachFX has helped hundreds of schools increase their student engagement by visualizing for teachers what portions of class are teacher talk versus student talk. Get a 20% discount on TeachFX by using a special code just for the Ruckus Maker Nation, teachfx.com/BLBS. And today's last sponsor is Organized Binder, a program which gives students daily exposure to goal setting, reflective learning, time and task management, study strategies, organizational skills, and more. Organized Binder's color-coded system is implemented by the teacher through parallel process with students, helping them create a predictable and dependable classroom routine. You can learn more and improve your students' executive functioning and non-cognitive skills at organizedbinder.com. And we are back with TaRael Kee, who is currently an assistant principal at Collinsville High School. He was the Illinois School Counselor of the Year in 2021. He has an awesome podcast that we're going to talk about in just a second called The Key to Success. And not the recording of this video, but when this audio releases, it is TaRael's birthday, which is amazing. So we absolutely, from Ruckus Maker Nation to you, TaRael, happy birthday, man. You're an amazing educator. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, all right, let's talk running just for a second. And
Sure.
you know, my background, education, I was on the far south side of Chicago working at Brooks, and I heard about this nonprofit, Team World Vision. They do clean water projects all around the world for kids. And I asked, hey, has any high school kids ever run a marathon? This is my story, but long story short, over 3 years, we had just over 100 kids complete the marathon and raise $25,000 for water projects around the world. And you did the marathon a few years ago, from what I understand. You couldn't even run a mile when you started. So tell us a little bit about that experience. Like, why did you decide to run it? And what'd you learn about yourself through that process?
Oh man, so this is really cool. So I started running as a part of K-Hawks on the Go. So it was so one of our teachers here, Emily Reed, she came down and she had like these flyers for like K-Hawks on the Go, like just to get kids to run a half marathon, right? You know, just anything, right? Just a half marathon. That's not just because it's still 13.1 miles. But and then she asked if I would be like, you know, a club sponsor and kind of help her out. She asked me and another one of our counselors. And so we both said yes, but he kind of flaked out on me. He never came. So long story short, like literally, if it's something about helping kids, like you probably could talk me into doing it. So I went from not running at all to running a half marathon first, right? So that was the first thing. So I ran a half marathon, and I'm telling you, the first time I got out super hard, I was determined. I thought I was going to do super great in it, right? And I bombed it like mile 9, right? It was terrible, right? Because you know, like how like the race environment kind of gets you all pumped up and stuff like that. So it was bad, right? So I mean, like it turned into a march instead of a run. And then, so the second time she talks me into it, she said, hey, well, you trained really well. I think you should try it again. So I run a half marathon that time. And like, that's how, like, literally how life is. Like you fail and then you get back up and you try again. So I went from running 210 the first time to 155 the second time. So, and that, I think that was like in like 2 weeks or something like that. So it was in me. I just ran a bad race and I took that information in and learned from it, right? So that was that when I ran that for YMCA. And then, so, all right, so I run that, I'm feeling good. I'm like, okay, you know, so I decided I'm not going to run anymore. So I go back to scratch, right? We're back down to no miles, right? And she tells me about St. Jude. You know, I kind of knew about St. Jude, you know, St. Jude Hospital, like, you know, they offer free healthcare to children with cancer, right? So, you know, so I'm hearing the stories and how I could raise money for children. And, you know, for me, if you want to get me on the hook for something, tell me it's going to help out kids. So like we're in this in the Go St. Louis Convention Center, and she taps me on the shoulder. She said, you should run the marathon. I was like, wait, what? It's like the marathon. Like I barely made it through a half. And then she was like, think about what you can do for these children and stuff like that, right? So I sign up like months in advance. It's like 6 months in advance. And then I began like this journey of getting back in shape again. And it was humiliating because I went from running 155, right? So I'm dropping 8-minute miles. You know, I'm thinking I'm doing something, right? I mean, I'm not like setting the world on fire, but I'm doing something. And then to like not being able to really run that well. And it started off with like walking and running and then like just gradually building myself up. And I'm telling you, it was some humiliation in the beginning for letting myself go. And then it just kind of built up over time where, you know, I just had like sometimes it was just great, like to meditate on the road. It was great, like for just like releasing stress from work and everything else. Some of those 20-mile like training runs and stuff like that, I ran it in like the cold and it was like sleet coming down and stuff like that. But it really just helps you kind of get like in touch with yourself and who you are. It helps you build resiliency. I mean, it was really just a really cool experience. So long story short, we drive down to Memphis and it's race that nope, skip back. Let's go back a little bit. So before that, we had like a luncheon, and then like these people, like they tell us all about like the children that they've helped. One of my coworkers, her granddaughter was in St. Jude, before she, and so, she was telling us the story about her, I'm like, man, like, this is what this is really about. Like, I really want, so I'm raising money, and I'm terrible at raising money. So I raised the money. and I figured out a way to get that done. And, we go down to Memphis and it's race day and I am scared because this is the real deal. Like, this is not the half. This is 26.2 miles, right? This is the real deal. My farthest training run was 20 miles and I cramped up like it was no tomorrow afterwards. So I finished it and then I just fell apart, right? So race day, I get out and I'm smart this time, right? So I thought I was anyway, but I still made a mistake. So I start off easy, right? I'm like, I'm not going to go out too fast. I'm just going to relax. And then, so I had like a strategy. I was like, I'm going to run a mile, walk for 30 seconds, then run whatever, walk 30 seconds. And it was working, right? So I think I was like at 9:30 for 20 miles. But there's one thing that I messed up on: nutrition. I was not taking in enough nutrition. So I was using, I wasn't using like gels. No, I was using like that gummy pack. I was using like the gummy pack or whatever, but I wasn't taking in enough calories like for a 4-hour plus run. You know what I mean? So at mile 20, I tried to stretch and I cramped up and it was bad. It was so bad. Like, I literally had to call my wife. I was like, hey, man, I know we came down to Memphis. But I just needed somebody to vent to. So I talked to her. My friends were supposed to be at mile 20 supporting me, but they decided to play a prank. They were at mile 24. And that played with me mentally. I was like, where are my friends at? I know they're down here. Like, where are you guys at? Like, what are you doing? So at mile 24, they were there, like, and I saw them for like a split second. And then at mile 25, there was this enormous hill, right?
Yeah.
And they told us before. Yep, you ran it before?
Yep. No, I mean, but Chicago has a mini hill at the end too. That's what just races do to mess with you.
Yeah, and they told us before we ran that when you go up this hill, like, there's a pink hospital building, and that's where the children are, and like many of them cannot leave the hospital. So when you're thinking about complaining about this hill, I want you to look up at that hospital and remember what those children are going through, and think to yourself, do you still want to complain? Wow. I couldn't. So I just kept going, and ultimately I finished, and it was great.
That is an impressive story at the end there with the hospital piece. And what it reminds me of is this Viktor Frankl quote, which is that a man can deal with almost anyhow when his why is strong enough, right? So if you right are remembering why you're running, the purpose for all of that, and you think about those kids, you just keep pushing through. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for just how you supported the children as well. So quick question of just about plug your podcast real quick, The Key to Success. Who's the ideal listener, and what's that show all about?
So the ideal listener is, I would say, probably, I mean, like, because I'm a former school counselor, so more than likely it's going to be like a 30 to 50-year-old white female, more than likely, But the my ideal listener is someone that is looking for hope, The entire premise of my podcast and why I got started, I was reading the news one day, right? And every story was bad. And I thought to myself, there has to be some good news. And if not, I'll make it, right? I'll make it myself. So I started thinking, like, what could I talk about? I was like, well, I have all of these incredible friends. They're all over the country, and they're doing all of these really cool things. And we have such interesting conversations. But the problem is, it's like all housed here, right? Like on the phone or on a Zoom call, and no one else could see it. So what I ended up doing was, so we started off with me just kind of talking about my journey, like growing as an educational leader, and then doing an interview. So like I do every one episode a week. That's what I was doing before, right? That was how I got started. That's how the anchor, like the audio only is probably going to be once a week. But on YouTube now, like this week, I kind of started thinking, got to provide more content. And there's so much that parents don't understand about education and how it works. And then also there's some educators that want to read articles and things like that, but sometimes they don't have time. And sometimes it's just easier to listen to somebody else. So I started doing like article reviews and how-to videos and different things like that to create some shorter form content that people could digest a little bit easier. So really, like the thing is like the spin, pretty much anything, no matter how bad it is, like I try to look at how we could change things, how we can make things better. I don't really get like caught into like the dumps of like, oh, what was me? All this stuff is bad. I always want to know, like, how can I create change? What could I do? And one of the ways that I kind of started to shift my mindset that way, I've always been like an optimist, but I went to therapy for the first time last year, right? First time. And I was telling the therapist, like, I was like, oh man, I got all this stuff going on and, you know, blah, 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 woe is me. And she said, do you think that that's ever going to stop for you? Do you think that's going to ever stop? And then like, it was like that moment of acceptance. It's like, no, I'm just going to keep doing more. Like, that's what I do. I do more. So I accepted it. And then since that's like now my accepted reality, now I can deal with what I could do to make change, to improve my life, to make me happier, and to do more for other people, because I feel like I'm a servant first. Like I want to serve people. I want to help people. And I want to create change with this life that I was given.
All right. Well, TaRael, if you could put a message on all school marquees across the globe for a single day, what would your message read?
I would say it would say you could be anything you commit to, and so be careful and choose happiness.
You're building a school from the ground up, TaRael. You're not limited by any resources. Your only limitation is your imagination. How would you build this dream school? What would be your top 3 non-negotiables?
Top 3? Okay, I have like 27, but
three.
3. All right, we'll stick to 3. All right. So, first off, I would want to be in a poor community. I don't, I want to reach like the kids that might not see opportunity like in school. They might not see school as an opportunity. I would try to bring in like the top teachers, school counselors, and administrators I could possibly could. I would have like robust like partnerships like in the community, like they would see us everywhere. And I would pay teachers well. Everybody would be happy there since I get unlimited money. So like we would have kids doing community service, whether it's like cleaning the neighborhoods, getting the trash up, mowing lines, so that they felt ownership like in a different way of the community. I would have top tier technology and partnerships, like with like different like software agencies, like so kids can learn coding and all kinds of things because it's going to be the way of the future. And then like kids would have like a support hour. I would build in an extra hour where they could get academic career, social emotional support. Teachers would have mental health professionals, and one-to-one technology. I would run the tab all the way up and try to create make the school like the shining light in that community, where people saw it as a possibility, like for upward mobility. I would say my non-negotiables would be I want the teachers, my best teachers, to teach the kids that need the most help. Mm-hmm. So I would go bottom heavy. I would give them as much as I possibly could. I would give them all the support, whether it's at home or school. Like I would try to do everything possible to support the kids that need the most, the kids with the ACEs and stuff like that. I would say that I gotta have great technology too, because I feel like the smart boards and the one-to-one like tablets and stuff like that, I could shrink the world. I could bring in people that might not be able to physically step into the building. There's so much that I could do. And then also I would want to, I'm just thinking, what else would I like? The third thing. I think that we have to be active in the community. I think the adults and the students have to be active in the community, because we would have to reclaim the community away from whatever problems are plaguing the community. We need to clean it up. We need school. My school needs to look amazing and the community needs to look amazing. and I want people to have hope. Like, I mean, it's hard to hope when you got holes in the walls of your school, and like you're not getting a good lunch and stuff like that. So I want those things. I want kids to have a hub that they could see school as the place of hope.
TaRael, thank you so much for being a part of the Better Leaders, Better Schools podcast. We covered a lot of ground. So of everything we talked about today, what's the one thing you want a ruckus maker to remember?
That literally, you like, sometimes in life, you want someone to make change, right? And you look left, you look right, and there's no one there, right? But I want every ruckus maker to know that they are the person that creates change. Like, you create the change yourself. You're never like, and you have to do things sometimes that you're not even ready for in order to do it. So there's nothing wrong with not being fully ready. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. Just get out there and start and try to make change every single day.